will be doing the formal introduction of today's program. So Debbie, you have to unmute yourself first.
Debbie, hello.
Hello. I should have known that. I've been on so much Zoom.
Take it away.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for being with us. My name is Debbie Mighton, and my husband, Larry Gutter, and I are proud members of Jewish National Fund's Century Council, President's Society, and National Water Task Force. I also serve on Orlando's Board of Directors as General Campaign Chair, and I'm a proud member of the Circle of Sapphire. I would like to express my appreciation to my fellow event committee members from across our region, Goldie and Kenneth Wetcher of Naples, Esther Rose of Sarasota, and Sandra and Stephen Gersten of Tampa. Thank you all for your dedication and support of Jewish National Fund and the Alexander Muss High School in Israel. And a special welcome as well to AMHSI alumni, parents, and grandparents joining us today. On a personal note, Larry and I have had the pleasure of meeting with our guest speakers several times, both here and in Israel, and we are always so impressed with his passionate support of Israel and the JNF mission there. Today, we are privileged to hear an exclusive update on the promising present and bright future of the Alexander Muss High School in Israel, the only pluralistic, college prep, fully accredited program where high school students from the United States and across the globe study together in Israel. Please note that all participants have been muted for the duration of our program. Questions can be placed in the chat to Lior Sinai or Josh Melitz, and the program will be recorded for future reference. If you experience any technical issues, please place a note in the chat to Josh Melitz. And now it's my pleasure to introduce you to a unique and dynamic Jewish leader. He's a dedicated Zionist who lets his actions speak louder than words. He made Aliyah with his family to support Israel from within. He's an inspired and inspiring rabbi who spent a year in Israel during college, where he worked on building networks of socially conscious Jews, and then received his ordination as a rabbi from the Jewish Theological Seminary. And he's a top-notch educator who works enthusiastically to support and energize the only non-denominational English language semester abroad academic experience in Israel for high school students. And now, please let us welcome the Chief Institutional Advancement Officer of the Alexander Muss High School in Israel, Rabbi Leor Sinai.
Thank you so very much, Debbie. It's such a pleasure to be here with so many familiar faces, so many friends from over the years, seeing you here in Israel, here on campus, as well as, of course, visiting you and your communities over the years. I tell people when they ask me, let's not talk about work. How are you doing personally? And I say, well, that's where you have it wrong, because what I do is personal. In fact, what we all do is personal, because we care so much. We dedicate our lives to Am Yisrael, to our next generation, to Israel, in so many various capacities. And that's something that Jewish National Fund allows us to do, or empowers us to do, whether it's water, whether it's education, of course, whether it's construction, community, and the list goes on. It's certainly a fabulous family that we are all a part of, and it's so wonderful to see you all here. For everyone who's on our call now, I love seeing faces. I miss seeing your faces. So if you have to be with your camera off, I understand. Otherwise, please do turn it on. I'd love to see you and see your smile out there. It's certainly, we're certainly in a challenging time, but it's not certainly new to us. We've been in this situation for quite some time now. And as an organization as well, we have had to navigate these challenges on so many levels. It's one thing to plant a forest and to go ahead and water it as needed. It's another thing to run an organization as our own and ensure the safety and security as well as the education of our students. We, after all, are dealing with human capacity. We're dealing with our youth, with our children, with students. So it's a tremendous responsibility that we've navigated, and may I add, very successfully. Before I continue, we have a very neat video. It's around 1 minute and 20 seconds or so long, not too long, which kind of gives you a sense of where we have come from over the last 6 to 8 months. Ever since March 15th, where we had airlifted our students back home with the outbreak of this pandemic, throughout the summer, leading up to the reopening of campus and the joy that we had to see students land here in Israel. So I'm going to ask my colleague, if you don't mind, to play our first video titled AMHSI Undefeated.
We are here at the Ben Gurion Airport. These are our Alexander Muss High School in Israel students. Where are you guys going? You going back to the U.S.? You guys psyched?
No.
You're not excited? No. You want to stay here in Israel? Check one. We're coming at you from Ben Gurion Airport with our last group of 100 students to arrive in Israel. Let me hear it out there. That's right.
Wow, 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 wow. I still get goosebumps when I see that video. And if you can only imagine how many times I've watched this video, I swear to, every day, just to kind of remind me of where we came from, how far we've come to make this happen. I mean, again, nothing short of a miracle, right? We are the only high school in Israel currently in operation in Israel. There is no other teen immersive program that's taking place in Israel. There are GAP programs that are available, but of high school students, we are the only program in Israel. And I say that with tremendous pride and with tremendous responsibility as well, because it's a huge responsibility to have our kids here so far away from home to ensure their health and security, while we additionally provide them with an experience that is still transformative and meaningful, all considering the challenges we face. But I have to tell you something. When they say it takes a village, it takes more than a village. It takes a people, it takes a nation, it takes all of us, all of you, all of Am Yisrael to come together and to make this happen. The approvals that we received to ensure that our students were allowed to get here to Israel didn't just come out of thin air. In fact, our colleague Zohar Vlosky, who's on the call with us, my colleagues here in Israel, every single one of us got together, didn't sleep at night, made every phone call we could. And as my mother would always tell me, if they don't let you in through the door, you come in through the window. And that's certainly what we did, because we were not taking no for an answer. So long as our students wanted to come to Israel, and by God, let me tell you, we had a wait list of students who wanted to come this fall to Israel. So long as we have students who want to come, we wanted to figure out how we would get them here, and we did. And as of now, we have over 100 students here. We're now in the middle of October. They all arrived on September 1st. They went through their 2-week quarantine. They actually enjoyed their quarantine, because if they're going to quarantine anywhere, why not be in quarantine with other peers, with other kids your age, living on campus, living in dormitories, rather than being stuck in your room? I mean, for some, that might be something that they prefer in their own home, in their own bedroom. That's fine. But for many, they couldn't wait to get out, especially with such a difficult summer that we all went through. Camps were canceled. Sleepaway camps were shut down. Kids who normally would be out of the house doing something on a day-to-day basis were just thirsty for something else. And we are so thankful and so appreciative that we were able to do what we could to get these kids to Israel. And that is the beauty of what it means, Am Yisrael Chai. There's a saying in Hebrew, Kol Yisrael arevim ze bazeh. All of Israel is responsible one for the other. And that's our approach to what we do, how we do it. It reminds me of a famous story in the Talmud, where they talk about, the rabbis of blessed memory tell us about a little shipping boat, a little fisherman's boat that went out into sea with 4 fishermen on it, where one of them decided that he was going to drill a hole under his seat. And the rest of the fishermen in the boat said, hold on, what are you doing? And the fisherman said, what do you care? It's none of your business. I'm just drilling a hole under my seat. But of course, the other fisherman said, yes, but a hole under your seat or under anyone's seat, well, that's going to bring the demise to us all. And that's what it means to be a part of Am Yisrael. I don't care about your political affiliation. I don't care about your denominational affiliation. I care about Am Yisrael. And we're in it together. And together is when we succeed. And that's the message that we teach our youth on campus. Because by God, let me tell you, our student body reflects the entirety of Jewish peoplehood. We get students from across the United States and around the world who have a variety of upbringings as it regards their own Jewish communities and where it is that they come from. And that's the beauty. That's the beauty of that tapestry, that colorful tapestry of Am Yisrael, with so many different approaches and understandings. But the common denominator, of course, the common denominator is our peoplehood. It is our narrative. It is our story. And it is the rightful ownership of our students to be able to forge their link to the chain of Jewish continuity. This is our responsibility, nobody else's. It is all of our responsibility. Grandparents, parents, siblings, educators, professionals. It is our responsibility to ensure that we do everything we can so that Am Yisrael Chai is not just a saying that we repeat, but it's an actual action that we take. Because for over 2,500 years, that's why we're here today. Because every generation took it upon themselves to ensure that our children know from where they've come from. And as a result of which, they know to where they're going. 48 years we celebrate this year. 48 years since the inception of the high school in Israel in 1972, which started as a dream and became a reality. Over 34,000 alumni. And I guarantee at least 99% of whom will all tell you that the experience of being in Israel over an extended amount of time before they went to college is what made the difference. The opportunity to explore and discover who they are. We have kids who go to Jewish day schools their entire lives, but they still don't get it. Not until they come to Israel and spend 2 months, 4 months, do they finally have the opportunity to not just sit in the classroom and hear their teacher tell them about Jewish history, but to actually live the Jewish calendar in the Jewish state and to walk through history, to actually internalize and experience our history. There is no better education than experiential learning. And that's what we do here at the high school in Israel. I want to just share another quick short video here. And this, we call it Muss on the Move. Before you share this, over the lockdown and the shutting down of campus, we set out a series of educational initiatives, virtual learning opportunities, where our teachers were teaching daily, online, open to the public. We created what we called the Muss on the Move, where our teachers were literally going out to Israel in Caesarea, in Jerusalem, up in the north, down in Be'er Sheva. They would go out there and film themselves talking about the site that they were sitting by or standing by, the historical relevance to the Jewish people. And we have this series of AMHSI Muss on the Move videos on our YouTube page. It's the Alexander Muss High School in Israel YouTube page, which you are, of course, all welcome to see for yourselves. And here's just one of them. We wanted to give you just a little taste of what it means when we say Israel becomes the classroom. So please play our second video for us.
Shalom, everybody. Welcome to one of my favorite places in all of Israel. This is like 8 minutes down the road from where I live. This is like my favorite place to bring my kids. This is basically our beach. Welcome to our beach. And what I love about this place so much is when I bring my kids to this beach, I look at the Roman aqueduct. And I think, and I sometimes tell it to my kids, I'm like, guys, check out this Roman aqueduct. This has been standing here for like over 2,000 years. This was built by the Romans, right? At a time when Caesarea was like their hub, like their capital, right? When they were in control of this land. And I'm here bringing my Jewish kids who were born in this land. And I see this Roman aqueduct, which I know was bringing water to the city of Caesarea, right? Which is where the Great Revolt broke out in the year 66 CE, which eventually led to the downfall and to the demise of the Jewish people and the 2,000-year exile. And 2,000 years later, I'm coming back here to this beach with my kids to have a good time, a good day. And I look at this and I say, where are the Romans today? And where are the Jewish people today? And it fills my heart and it blows my mind. And it just serves as another great reminder, right, of the everlastingness of Am Yisrael. And that's what Yom HaSzivut is all about. Whether you live in the land or you don't live in the land, it's about celebrating our people, our peoplehood, our nationhood, and our return to this place. Am Yisrael Chai, Yom HaSzivut Sameach.
Wow. You know, if I'm going to study Roman architecture, I'm going to go to Rome. If I'm going to study Chinese medicine, I probably should go to China. If I'm going to study the history of our people, I should be in Israel. And that's what this is all about. As you saw just a little taste of a minute and a half, and I can see your smiles out there, and you probably get those goosebumps because you know how you feel when you come to Israel. You know that when you get out of the plane and out of Ben Gurion Airport, the air tastes different, and it's not the pollution. The temperature, the feeling of the energy in the air, right? The footsteps you take on the ground, every footstep seeps into the ground like the roots of a tree, because this is your homeland. This is where we are all from. It's historical events that have put the Jewish people and scattered us around the world. If it wasn't for the Second Temple destruction, we would all be here. But the fact of the matter is, history is what it is. And the Jewish people, after 2,000 years, came home. What a story do we have to share with our kids? And woe to us if we don't tell them. Because I can argue. I argue that ours is one of the amazing, miraculous, most wondrous stories in human history. That's right, in human history. Who ever heard of a people that are 0.03% of the entire global population? Not even a half of 1% are Jews. What a story we have. What an impact we have on society. And the story of the return of our people back to Israel to this day, 72 years later, is just something that is upon ourselves to share with our kids. So that's my presentation, if you will, as we say, al regel echad, on one foot. There is certainly more to share. And I certainly look forward to the skies opening up and to all of you being here in Israel, and for me to be able to meet you personally and maybe take you out for a coffee or for lunch on me. So whether it's here in Israel or next time in the United States, in my next travels, I do hope to see you all. And with that, I am going to hand over the microphone to Miss Esther Rose.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me? Josh, am I heard?
Yes, you are heard.
Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm a proud member of the JNF Sapphire Society and on the board of our Sarasota chapter of the JNF. And as Lior said, education is the key to our survival and our future. And I do believe in a strong and beautiful future for us. And especially for my granddaughter, Arava, who's in a class now, on a Zoom class. My son and daughter-in-law are on the Zoom with us here. I want to introduce them, Judah and Lisa. And I'm so happy that I'm in a position to make a donation today. Even though there are troubles in the world, I believe we have a great future, and I'd like to make a pledge of $1,800 today toward the JNF, and I know a lot of it will come to the Alexander Muss School.
Wow, that is fabulous. Thank you so much, Esther. We very much appreciate your support throughout the years, and thank you very, very much.
I've been a supporter of JNF since I was a child in Cincinnati, and my parents were involved in the JNF. So it's in my DNA. And now I want to present my son, Judah Rose, and his wife, Lisa Schreier, to say a few words. They are the parents of Arava, who on February 21st, hopefully will be landing in Ben Gurion Airport.
Good afternoon, everybody. This is Judah Rose. I'm Esther Rose's son. This is my wife, Lisa Schreier, and we're the proud parents of Arava Sharona Rose. As indicated, she'll be going to the Musk School starting February 21st, and we're very excited about it. It looks like a fantastic experience. It'll be her first trip to Israel without us. Fortunately, she's been able to go. We're big supporters of Jewish Day School. She's in her, she's a 13th year of Community Day School, the CES, JDS, the Charles E. Smith Jewish Day School in the suburbs here in Washington, D.C. We live in Washington. And also they attended the day school here in town, the Milton Day School, which we fortunately now have in the city. We think it's great that you can combine day school education here in the States and education in Israel. We're also supporters of JNF. We're also going to pledge money to support the efforts of JNF. I would say my father also has a plaque related to JNF on the Givat Tachmoshet, and I'm sure he would be happy to hear this as well. So with that, we're going to turn it back over to Josh Melitus, who's the JNF Western Florida Director.
Thank you, Judah and Elisa, and to Esther for your personal testimony and commitment to supporting this incredible program. And now is the time for the opportunity for everyone else on the call. If you have questions, please do put them into the chat to be directed towards anyone you've heard so far today. And while you're thinking about just exactly what you want to say, and I'll put something to Lior while we're waiting for that. We hear so much these days about how, the generations, millennials and Gen Z that came after that, they're just not connecting to Israel. And, and I'm not going to get into how true that is. And I just want to speak to, have you speak to, Lior, your experience in what it is exactly about this education that they're receiving that they can get that brings them close to Israel and has them in a position where they can be connected to Israel for the rest of their lives.
Thank you, Josh. That's a great question. I want to say two things on that note. Number one, during my travels pre-corona, of course, and I've traveled all over the United States and in Jewish communities around the world, I can tell you that many parents, grandparents would often come to me and say, how is it that our youth isn't connected or doesn't know or isn't inspired by Israel? And often my response would be, answering a question with a question, saying, I don't know. You tell me. Because as far as I'm concerned, and you all might agree, we have one of the most beautiful stories to share. So if our kids aren't inspired or aren't excited about Israel, the only thing I can think of is that they don't know. We haven't told them. And education starts in the home. It is on all of us, parents, grandparents, family members. It is on us to serve as role models, to teach our children. And you should teach your children throughout your time. This is a responsibility we have. So number one is it's on us. Because when we share the story with the excitement that I know we all have for Israel, for sure, that little flame brightens in the hearts of our children, number one. The second part I want to share with you is that here on campus, one of the things that I tell our students and my colleagues do as well is we don't treat them as children. We treat them as adults. At this point in their lives, ladies and gentlemen, they can do most of anything on their own. They no longer need your help. Of course, as parents, we will always treat our children as our children. I have 3 of my own, and my mother, who lives in New York, and I'm here in Tel Aviv, will call me in the middle of the day and ask me if I ate my lunch. Now, of course, I ate my lunch. I have kids of my own, but because my mother will always treat me as her firstborn child, that's the sense. And here on campus, what happens, which is why it's a very different experience. And a very different child that will return to your home, it's because we treat them as adults. They have responsibilities here. They are held accountable for their assignments. Mom and dad aren't there every day to make sure they studied for their tests and for their exams. They clean up their own rooms. There is laundry to be had. They have to be responsible for waking themselves up in the morning and waking their roommates up and going for breakfast at 7:30 and being in your classroom by 8 in the morning. I mean, this is an adult experience. That's why we say it's a college prep experience, because it truly is. So what I want to say to you, Josh, in terms of your question, our kids care. They care very much. By us using the kind of language that often people will, they don't care. Well, our words have power, right? A good word, as we know, can lift someone up to the skies. And a bad word can make nothing out of something, right? Giving a child a compliment makes them feel good. There's something in the energy of our words. And so when we approach our students, again, we treat them as adults, and we put all of the information out there on the table, the good, the bad, and the ugly, and the complexity of what it means to be Jewish today, and what it means to have the state of Israel here today, when there are complexities here. We don't shy away from that. We have open and honest discussions, and they respond in kind. So as far as we're concerned, our children are thirsty. They are inspired. And it's on to us to touch that, to spark that little flame, because that little flame will grow and will continue to inspire them to want to learn more.
All right, thank you so much for that answer, and the power of words truly speaks to it. So we have a couple more questions here, which is great. So David, who's with us, his son was meant to go to AMHSI and was unable to in April for when things were shut down. And he says it's his now unlikely to go his junior year. And so he's wondering, what is the population of seniors in high school on campus? And are there any extra perks or something associated with being a senior on campus?
The seniors get to clean up the dormitories. No, I'm just kidding. Let me just share that the majority of our students are probably around juniors or seniors, although we have a population of sophomores. We are accredited for 10th, 11th, and 12th graders. I would say that it's probably equally distributed. And the experience that's often had on campus is that there's this common denominator that takes shape, and people will find their cohort and their friends and peers. So we get a lot of kids who want to come in their senior year and kind of, they're done with their coursework. They feel a little a little more of an ease in terms of their academic requirements, having perhaps heard it from colleges already, and see this as an opportunity to celebrate their departure from high school leading into college. Having said that, we also have our summer session, which is less academically affiliated and heavy, academically heavy. So we have our summer sessions as well. And we have a lot of juniors who also come, despite SATs and such. They actually decide that they want to come in their junior year. So we certainly have a lot of opportunities. What I suggest, David, is that you should be in touch with, and myself or Josh can put you in touch with our colleagues in your area, our director of admissions, our director of recruitment as well, who's based in Philadelphia, who can share more information on that. And we'd love to see your son here in Israel, of course.
Excellent. So another related question, speaking of the summer session, your question that asked just about that. Will students who were supposed to go this past summer and are now seniors, as we said, will they be able to go now that they are college age and ready to go to college?
Well, one of the blessings in disguise, if you will, of this whole COVID thing, as we all say and we all know, sometimes within challenges we find opportunities. And during this time, we took the opportunity to reflect and to dream. And one of our dreams has been over the years is to create a GAP program for post-high school students. Many of our alumni who have come to our program during their high school years have said, you know, I'd love to come back. You should have a GAP program. Many of our supporters, of our donors, of our partners out there said, you know, you guys, you're the pioneer of a teen immersive educational program in Israel. Why don't you create a GAP program? And so we did. Over the summer, we created a GAP program, a GAP semester program for students who are now in college, who are rising freshmen, rising sophomores, rising juniors. Especially now with virtual learning and with many universities shutting down, students figured, you know, why be stuck at home when I can go to Israel and have the time of my life there? So we got approval from MASA. MASA is the umbrella organization, which is also sponsored by the government of Israel. We've received approval in August. We currently have our first ever pilot GAP semester program. We have 25 students here in Israel, all college students from a variety of fascinating universities, from Princeton to Harvard University of Florida, Clemson, across the country, here in Israel with us. So we have our GAP program. Can one attend the GAP program one semester? Yes. In fact, our current program is a GAP semester program. Our hope is that we should have enough interest to continue a GAP semester program while simultaneously beginning to develop perhaps a GAP year program, because that is also of interest to many students who are coming to Israel.
Excellent, and we're really excited to see that take off and see where that goes, and hopefully it becomes one of the staying programs that we see moving forward. We had another question about something that we saw in the video, and if you could give a brief summary, because we know that it's a huge and incredible story of the march, getting the, lack of a better word, airlift from students, and how we were able to coordinate getting over 100 students safely back to their homes when the pandemic was falling upon Israel and the Western world at that time.
So what the experience was like, let me tell you, first of all, it was devastating. Of course it was devastating. Never in the 48-year history of this program did our program shut down. Not during the Gulf War, not during the Yom Kippur War, right? Remember, the school started in 1972. Not during any intifada. Not in 2014 when I was there on campus over the summer and rockets were aimed at us from Gaza. Never did we shut down. Always we found a way to navigate and to ensure the best for our students. This was certainly devastating. You saw in the video, and there was much more footage, of course, our students did not want to leave. They would have preferred to have gotten COVID, but to stay in Israel. And this is all within a month or a month and a half time out of their 4-month experience. So within a month, you can already see the magic that hit them, right? The magic of Israel, the magic of Zion, the belonging, the connectivity. It was heart-wrenching. It was devastating for us to see our children. I mean, we treat our students as our very own. All of us on campus have our own children. We know what it's like to have your child or your grandchild be so far away from home. We invite our students over to our own homes for Shabbat and for dinners. We forge relationships with them. It was certainly a difficult time. And the decision that we had to make was within a 24-hour period. We were hearing about it, as you all were. We were hearing about this pandemic spreading. We were hearing about airlines beginning to shut down. We were hearing about less and less flights leaving Tel Aviv, coming to the U.S. And at some point, we had, at that point, we had 250 students on campus. And we knew that we needed to decide. 50 of our students out of the 250 were from London. That's the Jewish Free School in London that sent their students to us. And the rest were from the US. On Friday morning, I think it was March 13th, we were talking about the decision to be made. Shabbat had come in. By Motzei Shabbat, once Shabbat exited here in Israel, we were on the phone and we knew that the decision had been made by our colleagues in the States. We had chartered a flight, and the next morning, that Sunday morning, what I call, and it was the Ides of March, it was March 15th actually, I came to campus. I notified our staff, I notified all of the counselors, all the madrichim, to please notify their students that they had to pack up in the next few hours. They had to pack all their belongings, and that night they were getting on a plane and we were returning them back to their homes, back to their families. It was a very difficult decision to be made, but it was the right decision that we needed to be made, and we did. And I and a couple of my colleagues, we escorted our students to the airport. There was lots of tears, but also lots of joy that we were able to get this done. The airport was empty. I stayed at the airport until around midnight, until the last student got on board. I wanted to make sure everyone got on that plane, and that was the story of what we'll call Operation Get the Kids Home, and we succeeded. And that was our responsibility, and thankfully we were able to fulfill that responsibility.
Thank you so much. And there's, for those who want more information, there was incredible press coverage telling people's stories, including the granddaughter of someone on the call right now, who was a part of that effort. And there were videos and there were articles written about it. And it really was, truly was a testament to the staff and the lay leaders and the students, of course, to make that all happen. And we hope that we can get them all back someday soon to Israel. You have a question looking ahead to other future programs for HSI. Can you talk about the plans for the Be'er Sheva campus and what that is and what that will mean to HSI going forward?
Sure. First of all, as you could imagine, the plans were not put on hold, but kind of slowed down with everything that's happening, of course. But certainly that is I would say the flagship project of Jewish National Fund today. Never has Jewish National Fund, aside from the reclamation and the purchasing of the land of Israel, and of course the afforestation and water reclamation, never has such a program been launched by Jewish National Fund. It's just a fact. I'm not making it up. There's no hype here. This is a $300 million project to build the JNF Global Institute for Technology and Education. The last time something like this was built here in Israel, I would imagine it might have been Hebrew University. It's on such a scale, and it will serve multiple purposes for JNF's sake as well as for the Jewish world, providing a space for a variety of groups, of missions, of educators to come and spend time down in Be'er Sheva on this new campus that is being built. And will serve many, many purposes. As far as Alexander Muss High School in Israel, of course, it will serve as our second campus. Our goal is to reach 5,000 students annually. Pre-COVID-19, we reached 1,400, almost 1,500 students annually. There is a tremendous desire upon many of our youth to come to Israel, and not just for a 10-day trip, like Birthright and other wonderful, wonderful programs that are out there, but on a long-term program like ours. And so long as the customer wants it, we're going to provide it. So that is our goal. Things have been picking up now of late. There are more discussions and meetings taking place here in Israel with the municipality. We're working very closely with the Be'er Sheva municipality, of course, with my colleagues, my JNF colleagues here in Israel, as well as the lay leadership who are taking the charge forward. And God willing, are going to continue. And this dream will too become a reality.
That's right, God willing, and again with the vision and with the guidance and support of our JNF family, AHSI family. We have a saying around here that Muss is us, that AMHSI is all one part and parcel of JNF, and we couldn't be prouder to have that, have them, and have you, Lior, and your staff as a part of our family. So before we move to conclude the program, I would be remiss if I did not mention that, to tell one more story of a teenager that went on this program in 2004, also with a day school, and was living in Israel for the first time with his friends, and got to see for the first time to live in the land and to go on the trips from Abraham to Zionism, and staying with a home family on a kibbutz, and learning the history firsthand from the Ayalon Institute of the hidden bullet factory that led to the war, before the War of Independence, and to pray on Yom Kippur and different holidays. And it led to, those experiences led to a lifelong learning, and solidified the lessons that were taught of Zionism, and gave the tools to move forward, and dedicated themselves to a lifelong love of Israel, and wanting to dedicate their lives to doing more for the Jewish people and for Israel. And that person is myself, as an alumnus of the program, and having come full circle in being a part of this wonderful program. I wanted to give one more opportunity, because we are reliant on the support of everybody here, and on everyone across the country that and the world that is supporting this, to do the incredible work that you've heard about, and both currently and those big dreams for the future, in any amount that is personally meaningful to you, to help us move forward. I want to give one more chance. There we have a link here to have an opportunity to donate, to match Esther's gift of $1,800, or again, any amount that is meaningful for you, and that you hopefully have been moved and inspired by everything that you learned and heard here today. So I want to thank you in advance for your consideration, and above all, for taking the time to learn us today, to be with us today, and we hope that you can move forward with that. So a couple of closing announcements before we leave. We are starting, we're very excited to announce that we have a national conference virtually this year. We, of course, were meant to be in Israel just around this time, and that will be moved to next year, October 21. But for now, to get the sense of what a conference is like, if you've never been to one, if you've been to 20, will be like none other. And so we have opportunity to hear from the CEO, Russell Robinson, and our lay leadership, from authors and journalists and professors, directly from the ground in Israel. Just a couple of sessions each day, all of next week. So it's coming right up, starting Sunday through to Friday. So we really do hope that you will be able to join us then. And again, the link is at the screen, and I'll put it in the link in the chat as well, so you can be able to move it right there from there. So I want to thank you all once again for being with us, to Lior for his presentation, Esther, and to Judah and Elisa for hearing about them. And we wish Arava has that incredible experience we've heard so much about, that I know I've enjoyed myself, and in the future. So we'll be sending out a reminder on some of those things today, and keep your eyes posted for our website for any and all updates. And thank you all again so much for being with us, and enjoy the rest of your afternoon.
Thank you all. God bless. And I hope to see you here in Israel as soon as possible. Stay positive. Be positive.
Negative COVID.
Bye, everybody.